All right, so when we look at Chapter 6 and we look at the skills that we need to know how to do for Chapter 6, this is super important. Okay, we just talked about the big ideas right here. What is Chapter 6 all about? And now we're going to talk about what are the skills that we need to know how to do, right? And so the first thing that we took a look at in 6.1 and 6.2 was determine the slope of a line. Okay, and that one came from this formula right here, right? Again, this is the change in y, that's the vertical change between any 2 points on the line, divided by the change in x. That's the horizontal change between any 2 points. So we can calculate the slope of a line by doing that. All right. Here's an example over here. If we have these 2 points, it doesn't actually matter which one is point 1 and which one is point 2. It doesn't matter. If you see them in a row like that, I would always take the second point as being point 2. It just makes sense. But you don't have to. So this is y2, it's -1 right here, minus y1. That's minus +4. So that's why you have this on the top. Then you divide that by the difference between the x values. So that would be 2 minus -2. You see that? Please be careful with your signs, positive, negative. And write them out like this as a bracket if you want. If you know you're subtracting a negative, you can just write a plus, right? So this is -1 minus 4 is negative, so here's the negative sign, 5, -5, -1 minus 4. And 2 minus a -2 is 2 plus 2, +4. So this would be -5 over 4. Or you can put the negative on the side, doesn't matter. Okay? So that's how you calculate slope. Parallel slopes are identical. Parallel lines have identical slopes because they never meet. Perpendicular lines are lines that meet at a 90 degree, right, like we just talked about. And they have their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. So if this is the slope of the line like we just calculated, the slope of the perpendicular line would have the slope positive 4 over 5. Okay? Positive 4 over 5. So that's what you need to know how to do for the test tomorrow. The second part here, okay? 6.3 was just a little exploration. We kind of glossed over 6.3 a little bit. 6.4 was when we talked about y equals mx plus b. This is the first form of a line that we studied. Very useful, probably the most useful form of a line that you're going to find in all of high school and university is y equals mx plus b. It's just kind of the favorite one. And we have the slope of the line represented here as m. That's the number that's multiplied by x. We also have the y-intercept b. Okay? So if I gave you this line and I told you we calculated this slope to be 3, and this point right here is the point 0, 2, you could write an equation for this line just by knowing those two things, the slope and the y-intercept. And how we would do that is we would go y, because you have to have y in there, and you have to have the x in there. The slope multiplies by the x, and the b value is the y value of the y-intercept. So this would be plus 2. That's the equation for that line. Done. Okay? Another example here, there's the slope, there's an intercept, so the intercept goes here, the slope goes there, and that's your equation. Really, really easy. Okay? If you have any questions, you can bust in here. Just give me a hand if you have any questions, but I'm kind of just rolling through this. So anybody have any questions? No? This is easy? You're good? You got this? Cased? 5 out of 5? Yeah? Some of you are like, eh. Still sleepy from the holidays, maybe? Okay. All right, let's take a look at 6.5. So we got 2 more sections here. 6.5, we talked about the point, slope, form, right? Point, slope, form, right? You have to put that song on repeat tonight so you can remember the point, slope, form. Anyways, so the point, slope, form, obviously if you're given the slope and 1 point, you can make an equation. This point does not have to be the y-intercept. If it's not the y-intercept, then because the x wouldn't be 0, then you have to have a spot for both numbers, and we do. Okay? And so here's the example. If we have a slope of 4/5, and we know that the line passes through this point, boom, you can make an equation for that. And you use the point slope form. So the slope goes in for m right here, And so that's where you get the 4/5, you see. The negative 2 goes in for x1, and that's why it's in here. And the 4 goes in for y1, and it goes right there. So you'd want to do a little simplification here maybe, and that would come, you don't ever want to have minus a negative with all these brackets. You don't want to have that. So you simplify that to a plus. But everything else can stay the same. Okay? All right. Now, can you rewrite this into y equals mx plus b form? Yes, we can. And we did that. You have to isolate the y. So you have to get the y all by itself and positive on, preferably the left side, right, of the equation. So we can do that. So let's do that real quick. Remember, what we have to do is we have to expand or multiply this part out to get rid of these brackets. And so let's rewrite this. Y minus 4 equals 4 over 5x plus, what's 4/5 times 2? Well, that's 4 times 2 is 8 over 5. Because this is like a 2 over 1. And we multiply those fractions straight across. So to get the y by itself, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. All right, and you're thinking, okay, well, how do I do that? Well, you add 4 to both sides. And this is a constant value. This is a constant value. So we have to combine those together. We have to write that as one term, not two. So I have to add up these two fractions. And what do we need when we have to add up two fractions? We need a common denominator. Very good. And so I need to make this 1 into a 5. So I multiply top and bottom by 5 to get my new fraction. And some of you are going, Mr. Maxwell, this is super easy. That's great. If this is easy, that's great. Let's just make sure it's easy. So that's 8 plus 20 is 28 over 5. We leave the common denominator there. And here you go. You have your y equals mx plus b. Okay? All right. So does that look good? Is everything correct there? Agreed? Any questions about point slope form? Okay. So again, going to the point slope form, I'm not going to really make you go to point slope form unless it's pretty straightforward, because there's a certain type of math skill that you need there to do that. I don't think you learn that till next year. So you can change from one form to another, but there will be some questions I probably want to ask you. So finally, 6.6. Okay, so this is the last piece here. 6.6, we talked about general form and standard form. So general form is when we have A, B, and C as whole numbers, and especially A has to be positive. B and C could actually be positive or negative whole numbers, which makes them integers. So B and C can be positive or negative whole numbers, no fractions or decimals, and A can be 0, but it has to be 0 or a positive whole number there, okay? So this is in general form right here. The x value, the A here, that's the number attached to the x, is positive, and there's no decimals or fractions on the other numbers, so that's good. All right? Okay, one of the things that we have to know how to do is find the intercepts. So I think we just talked about this yesterday, but as a review, to find the x-intercept, you let y equal 0. To find the y-intercept, you let x equal 0. And then you solve. So here's the let's find the y-intercept here. So we let x equal 0, and then we solve for the unknown variable that's left. So this is gone now, right? 3 times 0 is 0. So we've got 4y plus 12 equals 0. Subtract 12 from both sides. 4y equals negative 12. Divide by 4. We've got y equals negative 3. So our y-intercept is 0, negative 3. So it would be down here somewhere. Okay. Oh, I guess the graph is right here. So there's our 0, negative 3. And for the x-intercept, we simply let the opposite variable equal 0. Let y equal 0. That means this term is gone. We're left with 3x plus 12 equals 0, or 3x equals negative 12, x equals negative 4. So x equals negative 4. That's negative 4, 0 is our intercept. You put that point there. Now you have 2 points. You simply use your ruler, or some straight edge to connect the 2 points, and there you've got a graph of your line. Okay? So finding the intercepts, plotting them, connecting those points, easy way to graph. You can always do that. If you're looking at the other forms, like this one right here, y equals mx plus b, that's also really easy to graph, isn't it? Because look at this. Let's say, say I didn't have this graph. What you would do then is you would say, oh, I need a point at y equals 2. So I'll put a point there at y equals 2. And I'll use my slope to generate another point. And you would go up 1, 2, 3, and over 1. And boom, there you go. You've got your slope of 3. And you connect those 2 new points, and you've got your line. Is it easy to graph this one? Well, actually it is. Point slope form, that's easy to graph as well. So how would we do that? Well, you've got a point, don't you? If you look here, the point is negative, always opposite sign, negative 2, and positive 4. So negative 2, positive 4 is a point that's on the line. And we also have the slope, 4 over 5. So from there you go up 4 units and over 5 units. And you put your point on. And you can do that as many times as you want, but you only need 2 points. And you connect those, and boom, you got your line. So it's really easy to draw, to graph the function given any of these. This one, you probably want to do your intercepts, okay? Probably want to do your intercepts here. Okay? Questions? Anybody have any questions? Okay. Okay, so that's chapter 6. That's just a blitz through chapter 6. If you understood everything I said there, can do everything that I did there, then you are going to ace this test. Okay? So here's your review assignment again from the textbook. Where is that? Way up here. So you can jot that down. And I'll just, as well, I'm recording this for you. So if you want to look at this later to review anything, I will also have the textbook questions on the video here for you to see, okay? So I'm doing that in the background right now.
When's the test again?
Tomorrow. Tomorrow. I love you. Tomorrow. It's only a day away. I was Daddy Warbucks, you know that? In the school musical one year. Shaved my head, big bald. Yeah, that was like before you were born, I think. That was a while ago. Oh, and you know who was Annie? Mrs. Armstrong. Mrs. Armstrong was Annie. She was in grade 12. Yeah. It's for real.
Oh, you guys are classmates?
No, we weren't classmates. No, I was the teacher. She was a student. Yeah. Back when the teachers were in the musicals, when our school was super small. I was in like every musical for a long time. Let's see, Parker wasn't born.
What? Oh, that's a long time.
All right.